My name is Ryan Delucchi. I work at Verizon Labs as a principal engineer. Well, one of the issues that we've ran into as we're at Verizon Labs, as we make a lot of heavy use of pure functional programming, is we make a lot of use of free monad implementations, and there are parts of the code bases where when you're in the hot path of execution, where free monads can actually be a bit expensive, particularly with the trampolining that goes on. So we have to, while we like to use these abstractions as much as we can, as they do really help with code maintainability, there are times where optimizations are needed, and we need to use for alternative abstractions. For example, finally tagless would be a good one that can be used in place of free monads. Things that we've found it to be very, very effective for doing background processes and whenever you have a lot of concurrent activity going on, like in the Nelson project, there's a heavy use of scalability streams. Some scalability problems that you can run into there is if you run it, you have it's real easy for some people to forget some details on how they're managing their thread pools and such. And I've even seen some interesting problems where you have thread pools being managed in a certain way where you actually maybe have like a batch job that sort of hangs at the end, and that was kind of an interesting one to tackle. And I see this continuing to come up because, I mean, concurrency, it's a hard problem, and I've definitely seen that the tools of functional programming help with that significantly. But at the same time, you run into some intrinsically hard problems relating to that. Is still, even though you try to abstract as much as you can, those problems they're always there, and it's just sort of the name of the game. I mean, I pretty much came into Scala and FP after doing roughly a decade of enterprise level Java development, and I found myself starting to adopt FP principles without realizing it. And later on, once I realized that, okay, there's something much deeper here, there's a whole body of knowledge around FP, really starting in mathematics and under category theory. When you get more fundamental than that, you get down to information theory. Looking at so realizing that, as researching it more, I would say it's really changed my perception of how we write software. How we approach to solving these complex problems, and it's been to continue it to this day as we continue to learn more about instruments of functional programming. It's definitely proven to allow us to solve much more complex problems a lot more effectively, and convey ideas to new members of the teams as well. I've seen instances where you have people that may be relatively new to FP, and then they have to work in this code base where it's using a number of really complex parts like Kleistley's state monad and free monads, and I've actually been surprised to see that. Well, once you explain the concepts to them, then they can pick up the actual code, what's going on very quickly. And I've seen that play out in myself and others. Really, I think it really comes down to meeting with all the various people at different points in the curve as they're learning and working with Scala and functional programming. So meeting the people is one, with of course the talks being next. Yeah, I mean, Scale by the Bay it's been great in recent years as well, and this year was no exception.